here we go again. African-American shot by a police officer. He was unarmed. He's dead. There are protests now all across Arizona. And of course, with the combination of all of these cases, protests all across the country, but this is yet another case where we have questions. Now, it appears that not everybody agrees on the fact pattern. That's not surprising. And based on the cops' version of the fact pattern, it's less clear-cut than the Michael Brown case, the Eric Garner case, etc. So let me give you their version of the story, and then we'll talk about it more. Officers said that the driver, and they'd been called to investigate a burglary, and they said that they looked at a Cadillac SUV that Rumain Brisbon was in, and so they said the driver, later identified as 34-year-old Rumain Brisbon, got out of the SUV and appeared to be removing something from the rear of the vehicle. Okay. Now, normally in this story, that's when they shoot him dead, right? Now, they didn't in this case. Okay, so it might be damning with faint praise, but at that point, he's grabbing something from the rear of the vehicle, according to the cops. The officer drew his service weapon and pursued Brisbon after he fled on foot. So he starts chasing him, and at that point, he still didn't shoot him, but he is chasing him. Now, obviously, he didn't grab something, it appears, grab something from the rear of the vehicle, because if he had a weapon, he could turn around and shoot, but he didn't. Okay. So, doesn't mean he doesn't have a weapon, but he certainly didn't get anything that he used at the time. Witnesses said Brisbon verbally challenged the officer when he ordered him to the ground, and the pair briefly struggled when the officer caught up to him at the apartment building. Now, there's another witness who knows Brisbon who says that there was no such thing, and Brisbon did not challenge the cop, he just ran away. Okay. Now, but look, that's not the cop, that witnesses, and you got to, so that's what, for example, in the Michael Brown case, we gave witnesses more credence because they came in with their story immediately and explained what they saw. Now, again, you got to go to court and make sure that that's the case, but here we have at least some witnesses saying that there was a verbal challenge to the officer. Doesn't mean you shoot the guy, but there's a lot more to the story. During the struggle, Brisbon put his left hand in his pocket, and the officer grabbed onto the suspect's hand, while repeatedly telling the suspect to keep his hand in his pocket. The officer believed he felt the handle of a gun while holding the suspect's hand in his pocket. Now, remember, this is the Phoenix police spokesman at this point saying this, so you take that with a grain of salt. Of course, they're going to stick up for their own officer. They explained the officer lost his grip on Brisbane's hand and fired 2 shots, believing the suspect had a gun in his pocket. According to the description here, at some point they're struggling against the door. Somebody opens the door, they both fall down, and that's at that point Brisbane's hand comes out of his pocket. That's when the cop panics, pulls his weapon, or he had already pulled his weapon as we told you earlier, but at that point he shoots Brisbane twice and kills him. Okay, now another witness here, Martin Rangel, who's actually named, comes forward and says, when he heard the shots, he, quote, "I ran to the window, and that's when I saw the cop running out, or like walking out, and he was cussing. You know, he was screaming, 'fuck, fuck,' like upset that he shot the guy." Okay. Now, this paints a scenario where the shooting is a lot more understandable. But of course, this is a lot from authorities, including the police spokespeople. And then they put out things like, oh, well, you know, Brisbane was still on probation for a burglary attempt. Well, that sounds like, wait, burglary, okay. Except the burglary was back in 1998, so about 16 years ago. I don't know that that's relevant to this. Of course, people who know Brisbane say that he was doing no such thing, that he was there actually to deliver food to his family. So both sides have their version of the story. And then they say that they found a weapon in his car and marijuana. Okay, go through any neighborhood in any place in the country and see if you can't find marijuana in black people's cars, white people's cars, Asian people's cars. Okay, all right. So, but anytime they want to paint someone as dangerous, yeah, marijuana, right? All right, so now JR, the weapon, that seems damning, right? Now, he didn't have it on him,
right?
But it was in the car. It was not in the rear. It was actually in another place in the car.
And
what
again,
about the weapon?
Yeah, and again, some of these accounts came from, they said, friends of the family, and people that knew him. They said the community that knew him also talked about what type of guy he was, and that he wasn't a drug dealer and all that stuff. They said it was a small amount of marijuana, which he could legally own, apparently under, because he had the legal card or whatever, I guess similar to California, for the marijuana, and also that the firearm was legally owned as well, and he left it in the car. So it wasn't part of the struggle. It was one of those things where he left it in the car, they found the marijuana in the car later, All those things were found later. And originally, again, it was about them showing up about a loud music disturbance. And when that changed, they thought it was some kind of drug deal happening. And apparently he was walking in with 2 bags of McDonald's, is what they said.
Right. So
maybe that's what he was reaching for in the back seat. Who knows what he was? They said he was reaching for something. And that's immediately when the cop pulled out his gun and said, whatever. So again, all the things that would have been the threat or the reason for them to come after him were all left in the car. So you wonder what the intention was in, first of all, the confrontation, the chase, and then the struggle. And then they said the pills that they found were what, oxycodone?
OxyContin.
Yeah, OxyContin. So some kind of, so again, things that are prescribed. I don't know if that's part of the drug deal they assume, but I guess the problem a lot of his friends and family and community had was that he's being painted as drug dealer, had a gun, was running from the cops, was fighting, yelled back at them, whatever they say he yelled back at him. So now we got 2 sides of the story coming as to what actually happened. And many people are upset that only one side, or it seems that the one side is being told, is damning him.
Right. So it's unquestionably a complicated case, but it is absolutely true the cops threw out all that, quote unquote, evidence against him, which, as JR points out, the pills are legal, the marijuana is apparently legal, and he has a permit for the gun. So all legal. And he never reached for the gun and he never did anything with the gun during this altercation. And the bottom line is, here's a guy who was, again, unarmed, shot dead by cops. Now, the cop reaction has been pretty good afterwards. They immediately met with the NAACP within 12 hours of this, and they met with some community leaders, and they're trying to keep in constant communication. So it's not as bad as some of the other cases that we've seen. And another upside to this is, since he had a legal permit to carry that gun, I am positive that the NRA and the Republican Party are going to rush in to defend him. Oh, still waiting on that.